My name is Annika de Vries. I'm a pastry chef in Utrecht, third-generation baker, born with flour under my nails and sugar in my blood. For most of my life I believed in three things: love, buttercream, and fairy tale endings. Until the day I was left at the altar. The room had been filled with flowers. My mother had spent months sewing pearls onto my veil. My father walked me halfway down the aisle before noticing something was wrong. There was no one waiting at the end of it. I stood there, heart pounding, throat dry, the music still playing, the guests still watching. I remember gripping the bouquet so tightly the stems snapped in my hand. I remember someone's gasp. My mother's sob. He never showed. I found out hours later that he had boarded a train with someone else, a woman he claimed was just a friend from work. They went to Belgium. Honeymooned in my place. I didn't eat for 3 days. I didn't cry. I just stared at my cake, 6 tiers of lavender, vanilla, and betrayal, and wondered how something so beautiful could feel so bitter. Everyone told me to take a break. Shut the shop. Disappear for a while. But I didn't. I baked. I baked until my hands forgot how to tremble. I piped until I could write my name in cursive again. I taught myself to shape heartbreak into sugar roses and pipe forgiveness onto fondant. And when business picked up again, I smiled. I posed with brides and their custom cakes. I listened to grooms nervously whisper their secret inscriptions. I told myself, not every man is him. Then, a year to the day, he walked in. Clean-shaven. Nervous smile. A woman, not the same one, hanging on his arm. He didn't recognize me at first. Not until he looked down at the sketchpad I was holding. "Annika," he asked. And I smiled. Because I already knew. He was ordering a wedding cake. From me. He stood there, same jawline, same sheepish smirk he used when he forgot anniversaries. But this time, he wasn't holding my hand. He was holding another woman's fingers like they were china, fragile, perfect, temporary. "Annika," he repeated, trying to sound casual, as if my name wasn't stitched into the napkins he abandoned at our wedding. "Didn't know you still worked here." "Worked here? I own this place now. Bought it from the previous owner with the payout I received after suing the venue for emotional damages. I turned pain into profit. But I didn't say that." I smiled, cool, practiced. "Yes, still here. Still making dreams come true, one tear at a time." The woman beside him beamed. She had those wide, shiny eyes, like she still believed in magic and good intentions. Her hand rested on her stomach, and for a second I knew. Pregnant. That explained the rush. "We need something elegant but simple," she chirped. "White, maybe blush roses. Oh, and gold details." I nodded. 3 tears. 4, she said. "It's his second wedding." She giggled. He winced. I sketched quickly. Not because I needed to, I could design a wedding cake in my sleep, but because I needed to steady the rush of heat crawling up my spine. Anger. Maybe. But something more intoxicating stirred beneath it, control. I had never needed revenge. I wasn't that kind of woman. But then again, I'd never been given such a perfect recipe for it. He shifted awkwardly as I slid the sketchpad forward. "That looks amazing." "Of course it does," I said. "We specialize in fresh starts." He looked at me then. Really looked. The way a man does when he suddenly remembers every mistake he tried to forget. "Annika," he began, voice low. "I never got the chance to." "I'm sure you didn't," I interrupted, standing. "Let's focus on the cake, shall we?" The deposit was paid. The date was set. The irony? I had one other wedding that same day, a simple outdoor garden celebration at noon. But theirs was scheduled for 5 p.m. That gave me plenty of time. Plenty of space to think and plan. That night, I opened the back room of the bakery. I hadn't used it in months. Inside were leftover decorations from a wedding that never happened. My wedding. The sugar topper, a bride holding a bouquet of tulips. The calligraphed ribbon, "Forever begins now." I placed them gently on the counter. They had waited a year. They could wait one more week. Because this cake, his cake, was going to be unforgettable. The day before the wedding, my kitchen turned into a symphony. The steady hum of mixers, the low murmur of ovens, the delicate crackle of melting chocolate. To my assistants, it was just another high-end wedding cake. 4 tiers of elegance. Almond sponge, vanilla cream, golden sugar roses. But to me, every layer was a page. The base tier, the day we met. A cold Amsterdam morning, tucked inside the university library. He ordered coffee, not tea, so I added a subtle espresso note into the almond batter. The second tier, the proposal. On a windy Dutch coastline, sand in our shoes and sea salt in the air. I folded salted caramel into the filling, bittersweet and bold. The third tier, the wedding day that never happened. That morning when I put on my apron instead of a gown. I used lemon zest, sharp, bright, slightly cruel. And the top, today. Decorated in fresh roses, not fondant ones, real. Because this cake, unlike our promises, was grounded in something true. When it was time for delivery, I insisted on going with the driver. Maybe it was closure. Maybe it was something more primal, like reclaiming the air in the room he once stole from me. The ballroom glowed. Candlelight danced off glassware. Peonies and orchids spilled across silk-covered tables. It was the kind of wedding I once dreamed of. The staff smiled as we set up. The cake sat proud at the center, innocent and majestic. Then the guests arrived. Music swelled. Laughter echoed. And finally, they entered. He and the new bride. She looked like a fairy tale. He looked the same. Predictably forgettable. As they approached the cake, the cameras focused. Guests circled close. The photographer signaled the couple to hold the knife together. And just as they prepared to cut, a waiter stepped onto the stage. In his hand, a small remote. The ballroom fell silent. Then the screen behind them lit up. A video began to play. My voice. His voice. The voice messages he left me the morning of our wedding day. I can't do it. I feel too young. Too trapped. Maybe one day, but not today. Gasps echoed across the room. She dropped the knife. He stood frozen, pale. Me? I watched from the shadows, powdered sugar still clinging to my apron. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. Because this time, I had delivered more than a cake. I had delivered a story. And I made sure it had a perfect ending. The fallout was instant. The video spread like powdered sugar in the wind, across phones, group chats, social media reels. Runaway groom exposed by cake designer trended within the hour. I didn't plan for it to go viral. But I didn't mind either. Clients poured in. Not just for my cakes but for my calm. My audacity. My control. Apparently, there's a rare kind of sweetness in a woman who doesn't scream, just serves her revenge layered in buttercream. My bakery, Zoetiadin, became a symbol. And suddenly, every woman who had ever been left, lied to, or underestimated wanted her birthday cake, wedding cake, or divorce cake from me. Vanilla doesn't mean weak. That's what people don't understand. Vanilla is subtle, timeless, quietly powerful. It doesn't need to shout to be unforgettable. Just like me. Of course, there were those who called me cruel. Petty. Vengeful. But you know what they didn't call me? A victim. Not anymore. I saw him once, months later. He walked into the bakery. Not to apologize, he was never the kind to carry remorse. Just curiosity. He asked for a coffee. I gave it to him on the house. He didn't recognize the barista, but I knew she had cried for days when her fiancé left her. He asked about the cake on display. A 3-tier piece for a woman celebrating her business's 10th anniversary. She wanted the base to be vanilla bean and honey, I said. With a hint of cayenne. Sweet but with a burn. He smiled awkwardly. Creative. Real, I corrected. Before he left, he turned to me. You really made something out of that day, huh? I met his gaze, steady and unshaken. No. I made something out of me. He nodded and left. No apology. No attempt at redemption. Just silence. But this time, I didn't need closure. Because I wasn't baking cakes to prove anything anymore. I was building an empire. Flour and fire. Sugar and strategy. Every cake I made was a celebration of strength, survival, sweetness, and second chances. And if there was ever a woman who needed to taste what power looked like in the shape of a slice, well, my doors were open. The bakery had become more than a business. It was my name, my rhythm, my skin. Every box that left my counter carried not just a dessert but a defiance. A refusal to be erased. I named one of my signature creations the Phoenix Layer. People assumed it was a metaphor for rebirth. They weren't wrong. But it wasn't about healing in silence. It was about burning publicly and rising anyway, with caramelized edges and toasted almonds. Women came from cities away. Some brought stories. Some brought silence. All left with cake. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need to. Their eyes told enough. The kind of hurt that doesn't scream, but sits in the chest like an unlit matchbox, waiting. And for every one of them, I created something new. Themed cakes with names like Goodbye Gaslighter, Just Signed the Divorce Papers, CEO Energy, Crying in Chanel. Not just for women either, some men came too. One ordered a cake that read, She got the dog, I got the boat. He cried when I delivered it with a tiny fondant sail. That's the thing. We're all stitched together with memories, sweet, bitter, burnt. And somehow, frosting makes it easier to swallow. Then came the call. A well-known culinary TV show, The Sugar Seat, invited me to compete. They said I had a story that wouldn't just decorate a cake but slice into the soul. I said yes. Not for fame. Not even for money. But because I wanted to stand on that stage and say, this is for every woman who thought her dream ended with a man's departure. The show aired on a Friday night. By Monday, we had 6,000 online orders. I had to hire a full team. My accountant called it a miracle. I called it overdue. That week, I walked past my old wedding venue. They were hosting another ceremony. Laughter echoed in the garden where I once waited with hope in my chest and a diamond on my finger. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I walked in. Delivered a custom cake to the new bride. She had ordered it from me months ago. She had no idea about my past. She gasped. It's stunning. Thank you, I said, handing her a card. It read, Made by Annika de Vries. The name meant nothing to her. But to me, it was everything. Because once, I was the girl who got left at the altar. Now, I was the woman whose name whispered power beneath layers of ganache. And that was the sweetest slice of all.